Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Slasher Home Video. Today I'm talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation. Everybody's favorite installment of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. And now I might lose a few people here, but the reason I'm talking about this today is because I sincerely love this movie. That's not a very popular opinion, but I know there are a few of us out there, and if you do love this movie, it can sometimes feel like you're on an island, but I think that it is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. It is a lot more clever and ahead of its time than people give it credit for. It is actually top 3 in the franchise for me. I remember when I discovered it, it was at a Hollywood video. I had never heard of it before for obvious reasons. I'm pretty sure now we all know the story of how it got buried, and I saw the tape sitting on the shelf. And I couldn't believe that there was a 4th Texas Chainsaw Massacre and that I had never heard of it. And the cover art looked awesome. The VHS tape had this art on one side, and the other side had a beautiful piece of art that is not on the Scream Factory release or the DVD, which I have right here. This is actually the copy that was at my local Family Video before they shut down. I lucked out and managed to get it while they were liquidating. It's even got the inside booklet. There's the art I'm talking about there in the center. It's a little off-colored. It's kind of like an Andy Warhol style thing. That's pretty cool all on its own. But yeah, I saw it and I loved it. And years later, Scream Factory released the director's cut, which is what the movie was supposed to be all along. And I think that, I liked the home video cut, but there's so much cut out of that that should have never been taken out, that adds so much character development that it almost feels like a crime to me. Right off the bat, the home video version kind of jumps straight into the prom stuff, and in the original version, that whole scene at the beginning where you actually see Renee Zellweger's life and how horrible it is, how she's basically getting assaulted by her stepfather in her own house while her mom's downstairs, and she can instantly put on a smile and take prom pictures. It just adds so much to her character and justifies a lot of the actions for the rest of the movie that you just don't get with that home video version. And another character that I think is a little more fleshed out in the director's cut is Heather, who is kind of the ditzy cheerleader stereotype in the movie. She's actually treated like that all through the movie. She talks like a cheerleader, she acts like one, but if you actually listen to what she's saying, she's actually a pretty deep thinker. She thinks about death all the time. She talks about knowing her role in life and kind of just going with it to avoid confrontation and complication. There's a point where she's actually defending Jenny while her boyfriend is making fun of all her kind of superficial flaws, and she's talking about how actually smart she is. And so all through the movie, she's kind of subverting these expectations you have from her, even though the movie never really acknowledges it, and still kind of treats her like the ditzy cheerleader type. And I think a lot of the little stuff like that in the movie get lost in translation with a lot of people, but it comes through a little more clear in the director's cut. And obviously the big sell for this movie, the one thing that even people who kind of write it off will give it credit for, is Matthew McConaughey. He's 100%. He's in extremely rare form in this movie. He is cranked to 11, given a performance that would rival Nicolas Cage. And yeah, of course, that's a great performance, but it's not the only thing to like about this movie. So it always kind of bothers me when that's the only compliment people will give it, because I think it is pretty ahead of its time. Just that kind of self-awareness that it's a horror movie. I think people's biggest problem with it is usually Leatherface and how he's kind of weak in this one, but to me, especially the first two, movies were never really about Leatherface. It was about the family and how messed up they were. So that's never really bothered me. I mean, he had a pretty dialed back role in the second one as Chop Top's sidekick, basically, and you don't really need him to be the main threat and competing with Matthew McConaughey because he's not going to win that fight. McConaughey is so dialed up in this movie that he's absolutely stealing 100% of the attention, kind of the way Chop Top did in part 2. And I think it works. Velmer is a legitimately creepy dude. He's actually pretty effective at times. The stuff he's doing, in my opinion, kind of cuts through the camp a little bit. And, I mean, he's a pretty fucked up dude. I think another thing that bothers people that I hear a lot is that they're not cannibals and they're eating pizza. And I think that's kind of part of the joke. I think the whole point is that they're basically a really homogenized, watered down version of what they used to be. They're not living off the land anymore. They don't really have a reason to do this. They're just kind of part of the system now, and they're still doing the things they used to do, but they don't have as much reason to do it anymore other than some corporate overlord who's kind of orchestrating it all. Which brings you to Rothman, who is just... I mean, yeah, I think that's the point where a lot of people tune out. But, I mean, the guy is creepy. He's got nipples pierced everywhere, wounds in his chest. He's extremely off-putting, but I think that's kind of the point. And, I mean, I dig it. I like how weird this movie gets. I think if we live in a world where these weird kind of concepts don't ever get made, that's not really a world I want to live in. I think that was kind of the role of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. It never was like Halloween or Friday the 13th. It was its own thing. It didn't follow continuity. It didn't worry about appealing to broad audiences. It was really a punk rock franchise that did whatever the fuck it wanted. And I think after the remake, that all changed. It did kind of just become a run-of-the-mill slasher with Leatherface in the place of Jason or Michael. And those first 4 movies, there was nothing else like them out there, and I think we lost a little bit of that. And I think when that happened, it lost a lot of its edge. But I still think it's very present here. I think Kim Henkel put a lot of time and effort into this movie. Yeah, it was low budget and campy, but it had something to say at least. It was different. It was trying to keep that habit of breaking the mold that the franchise had always done. And I think it's a real shame that it kind of fell victim to the Hollywood machine and got shelved and eventually chopped up and released on home video, because I think that there is a lot more to it, and especially with the director's cut on this Scream Factory Blu-ray. If you haven't seen the movie in a while and you're opening to revisit it, I highly recommend the director's cut. It's a little bit of a game changer. It adds quite a bit of the movie that did not make it onto the home video version. And hey, who knows, if you're watching this video and you do that, maybe I've changed your mind. That's kind of the hope, because I'm probably sitting here giving this movie more credit than I've ever heard anybody give it on YouTube or real life. And that's because I do really love the movie. And if you're one of those people who likes it too, don't be ashamed of it. This is a really fun, gratuitous, off-the-wall, crazy movie. I think we'd be better off if there were more out there like it. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and until next time.